Okay, so here we are at the engine. Something I forgot to point out before is we really need to put these into the manifolds, these little fittings, before we do any of this assembly, and certainly before we install them into the vehicle. So keep all these a little bit loose, and they simply just slip onto the studs. Like so. Now these can be tightened down fully now. Before we fully tighten these, just make sure that they're all and make sure the shafts appear to be in line. Okay, now all the brackets and injectors can be bolted down firmly. Just for consistency, I like to push the injectors in the forward position. There we go. Okay, so now we come to some of the more critical points, and that's setting up the throttles. Now it's so important that the throttles at this stage you can get as accurately balanced as possible. That means trying to ensure that all the throttles at this stage are fully closed. So we'll start by just loosening off the couplings. Okay, so this allows this throttle to move. So again, make sure it's fully closed, and we can nip up the coupling clamp. Again, this rear one fully closed, and nip up the clamp. Okay, next we can start with the linkage. Now, something I like to do is set these up so that we have a left and a right thread here. So the bottom one is in the right hand position. That way we know that when we're turning it in this direction, that it's shortening the link, and set both sides the same. So we've got the right hand thread in the lower position. Put those up. Now the next thing is the spring. There's a little hole in the side here that feeds through that hole and sits up like this. Now these are self-aligning bearings, so the shaft can move around like so. Now we need the lock for the spring, and we need one of the short levers. Okay, I might have to set that up. There we go. Okay, now the slightly longer levers go on the outside with the little raised section to the outside. Now this side we can sit flush with the end of the shaft. Just nip it up for now. This is our return spring. So now we can connect the drop link. And this is essentially how our linkage works. Okay, and this lever, move that again. Now the next thing, this is a very critical point. I'm just using a little batten. You might find something better. It has to be straight and parallel, and we need to make sure that these two levers are perfectly parallel. So you can see at the moment they're not, so we can just adjust that till they're perfectly parallel. This is very critical. Otherwise you'll end up with one throttle opening slightly faster than the other, and that'll upset the fueling and the running of the engine. So see, both ways that's sitting perfectly flush on the levers now. So we can nip this lever up. Okay, so these two levers are set now. They shouldn't be adjusted or moved again. Okay, now we have to set our balance side to side as best we can. So we'll just loosen these up at the moment. So if we tighten the levers down all the way, now we can see this side's actually a little bit open and this side's fully closed. So we need to adjust these. Now you can feel when these just with no tension on them. You'll feel if one has tension or the other has tension, they're working against each other. So you can feel when they both just have no tension on them. So let's lock one of them down. Take as long as you need to get this right, because this is highly important. Now you can see if I'm just moving it gently, you can see this side is moving, but this side is not. You can see there's no movement on this side, but this side is just moving. So that means this one is a tiny bit long, and we just need to shorten that up just the tiniest amount. Now we're only talking maybe 1/6 of a turn. I'll lock it down again. Now you can just see, if I'm just moving, there's the tiniest bit of movement on this side, there's the tiniest bit of movement here. So we've got them at this stage very close. Okay, so now that we've got it to the stage with the linkage as even as we can manually, there's only a couple of extra things to do, is connect the main throttle actuation lever. So we can attach this one here. And there you can see we have the linkage working correctly. Okay, so now at this stage the engine is actually able to be run. So we need to finish connecting. I'll go along and connect up the injectors. Now you can see in this install we're actually using an idle control valve. I always recommend doing that. This is a small BMW one, of a 4-cylinder BMW. Pretty much any type of idle control valve can be used. There's lots of different engines. You'll notice this is a slightly different block to the one that comes with my kit. This is just something that the customer had in this car, so we connected to that again. But all these sort of systems all work essentially the same. So okay, I'm going to go ahead and connect everything up, fuel lines and injectors, and we'll be ready to fire it up.